arithmetic sequence. An arithmetic sequence is where you have to add exactly the same thing to get the next term. So you may be adding 2, you may add a -3, you could even be adding 1/3. But it's going to be the same thing every time. There's a formula you're going to work with often. Not only just in today's assignment, but you're going to see it in Monday's assignment. You're going to see it a lot, because you're going to have to know the last term in order to figure the sum of an arithmetic sequence. So that's a sub n equals a sub 1 plus the number of terms minus 1, that's n minus 1, times d, the difference. So a sub 1 stands for the first term. N stands for the number of terms, which it always has to be a whole number. If it's not a whole number, you did something wrong. Okay? D stands for difference. Now, part of the exercise today is, one step is to find the difference. So in order to find the difference, you take the second term minus the first term, or the third term subtract the second, or the fourth subtract the third, but it should be exactly the same no matter which two you pick to subtract them. And then a sub n stands for the nth term, which is always the last term of a sequence. Okay, so we're going to look at what you're doing on, I think, the first group, 15 and 16. Is where they have the sequence started and you have to name the next 4 terms. So I not only want you to name the next 4 terms, but I also want you to tell me the difference. I'll give you a couple examples, but you only need to write down one. You're going to find this is not mind-boggling. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is figure out what the difference is, right? So you can figure out what the next one is. So in order to find the difference, you can take the second term, subtract the first one.
How would you not know what it is?
That's true. And some of them, you will not know it. It may be a fraction, and then you have to figure out what that fractional value is. But a lot of them are pretty obvious. Or you could have taken the third term, subtract the second, but they should always be the same uniform amount. Now, if I have 12, 15, and 18, what would I do? And I always like to use blanks, that way I know I've got my answers. I want to name the next 4 terms. What would I have to do to find the next 4 terms?
Add 3 to 18.
Add 3, right? So 18 plus 3 is?
21, 24, 27, 30.
That's it. Okay, now, let's say we've got
How many examples do you say we need to write?
just one's probably all you need. So here's example 2. First thing you got to do is find the difference, because I'm giving you a point for that difference. So the difference is found by taking the
Second term.
subtract the first term. So negative 1/3. So I have 13 and 2/3, 13 and 1/3, and 13. 12 and 2/3.
12 and 1/3. 12 and 11 2/3.
Does everybody agree?
Mm-hmm.
You guys need another example of that group. Okay, next, this would be 23 through 26. On 23 through 26, it says find the first 5 terms of the sequence. And you're going to be given a sub 1 and the d.
Do the given ones, does the given one count as one of the 5?
That's the first one.
Okay, no, like 5,
Yes.
5 new ones or 5?
Actually, you find in the first 5, so there'd be 4 new ones
Okay.
plus the one they gave you. So you really got a free point, basically, because they give you one.
What?
They're going to give you the first term, and you have to find the first 5 terms. That means really you only have to name 4 more, because they're giving you one of the problems. Okay, again, I'll give you a couple examples, but you only really need to write down one. So if I tell you that a sub 1 is a negative 8, and the difference is 2.5. I'm gonna have you do fractions, although I know they don't have you do fractions that often, that's just so you guys have to work harder. So, my first term, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is a negative 8. See, that's one of your points, they gave it to you. Now, they gave you what the difference is, so what do you gotta do to find out what comes next? Add 2.5. So if you add 2.5 to 8, what do you get?
We use decimals if we win.
That's okay.
1, negative 1. Okay.
Not negative 1.
Negative 1, 3. Just negative 3. Oopsie.
Negative 3,
Yeah.
Negative 1.
negative half. Last one? 2. Okay, this time let's have it be,
How many do you want to write down now?
you only have to write down one. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my first term is,
1/4.
what's the next one gonna be if the difference is 3/4?
1.
Next,
1 3/4. 2 2.5.
2.5,
3 and 1.
and 3 and 1/4. Is everybody okay on finding the first 5 terms given the first term and the difference? Next group is 31 through 38. And this is, I'm going to give you 2 examples, and you need, well, I'll give you more than 2, but you have to write down the first 2, because I'm going to write them in the form that you're going to be seeing. And some of them look a little different. So on 31 through 38, you're finding the nth term. So one way they could give it to you is you could give you all the information. What if I say a sub 1 equals 5, the number of terms is 23, and the difference is 8. And what are we asking you to find? The 23rd term, or the last term of the sequence. This is where you want to make use of that formula. Because otherwise, which might mention this chapter is really a chapter that you could use common sense, you know, without even knowing any formulas. Common sense wise, couldn't I just keep adding 8 until I got to the 23rd one? But that might be a little time consuming. Plus I know I have a habit of asking to find the 100th term. So that would be even more time consuming, right?
We could just like multiply 8 by.
Yeah, you can, there's ways and patterns you can use to help it make it a little easier, but the formula is really gonna make it easier for you. So we wanna find the 23rd term. First, let me write the formula down again. Because if you just plug it into the formula, that's what we want. So the 23rd term is gonna equal, what's the first term?
5.
Plus how many terms are involved?
21.
23 minus 1, what's the difference? 8. So it'll be 5 plus, and we do what's in parentheses first, so that's 22. We gotta multiply before we can add, so what's 22 times 8? What was that?
Wait,
166.
can you slow it down a bit? I don't know what you just did.
I said 23 minus 1 is 22. Gotta subtract, you gotta do what's in parentheses first. Next, you wanna take 22 times 8 because you gotta multiply before you can add. Order of operations is always in order here. 176, is that what you're telling me? And then the last step would be to add those together.
21.
So the 23rd term is 181. Okay, now, this one's gonna look different. And why does it look different?
You gave us somewhat of a sequence.
I got you the sequence going. And I told you what n has to be. N has to be 100. So what do you know from this sequence? What can you tell by looking?
It goes up by 4.
Don't I know the first term is,
5,
don't I know the difference is
4.
4, and I'm looking for the 100th term? So it's all there, it's just written in a different form. Okay, so this would be a sub 100 equals, what's my first term? Plus how many terms are involved,
100.
times what's the difference?
4.
Okay, what do you gotta do first?
Parentheses.
So parentheses, 100 minus 1 is,
99. 396.
I'm assuming that's 99 times 4. So 401 is our 100th term. Okay, I'm still going to write it another way still. Now, you don't have to write this one down unless you just want to, because it's pretty much... just a different way of writing it. So what do we know from the way that's represented?
8.
You know the first term is,
12.
we know the difference is,
4.
because 8 subtract 12, and n is 38. Where did you get that from?
8.
It says find a sub n, and a sub n, that's just an understood n. Does everybody follow that? Now, putting it in, a sub 38 is like saying, where do I have, a sub n? So that 38 is what n has to be. So, a sub 38, look up there.
How do we do that then?
What's there? It's your formula there. In the nth term.
Well, what if it's not the nth term?
It will be the nth term.
Well, what if anything can be the nth term?
Yeah, it could be any number, but whatever is here tells you what n is. Because that's what I want you to find, is the nth term. Because your instructions are find the nth term, and if I said find a sub 38, that means 38 is the nth
It
term.
doesn't tell us it's the nth term.
Yes, it does. It says that in the instructions right up above. Okay, so a sub n, so a sub 38 is what we're trying to find, equals your first term, which is
12 plus parentheses 38 minus 1
times your difference is. So you do what's in parentheses first, so that's,
37.
you multiply next,
Negative 148.
148, and if you add 12 to that, you get,
Negative 136.
does everybody agree with that then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's 31 through 38. The next group is 52 through 55. And you're going to be finding what is called an arithmetic mean. It could be means, it could be just one. It could be plural, or it could be singular. And I always like to make it a little bit more interesting than the book does. So first I'll start with a fairly just logical one, and one that you got to think about. In this case, this example has 3 arithmetic means. And I could have worded it differently. I could say find 3 arithmetic means between 7 and 47. So, but the book has it set up with the blanks, so it's kind of a little bit easier to tell that that's what you want to find, is what's in between.
What's an arithmetic mean?
It's what's in between any two given certain numbers. And it could either be one number or it could be multiple numbers, depending on whether it's singular or plural. So what do we know when I look at that sequence? Don't I know the first term? What else do I know?
There's 5 terms.
There's n is 5.
The last term.
In this case, it'd be a sub 5, right? Because it's our last term for that sequence is. What are we missing? The difference. So can't we put that information into our formula and solve for D?
We don't even need a formula for
Why not?
it. Because we can use their common sense.
You could use common sense to get it. It might take a while for some people, especially if I made it nice little decimals or a nice little fraction. So then you might want to use the formula. So we're going to say last term equals first term plus the number of terms minus 1, and we don't know the difference, right? What would we do first to solve that for D?
Parentheses,
So that would be
4,
4. Then we could subtract 7. So D equals,
10.
so how do I figure out what's in the blanks?
Add it by 10.
So 7 would be 17, the next one would be,
27, 37.
and that one was kind of logic that was going to be it. So not only do I want to know what's in the blank, but I also want to know what the difference is that you had to use to get there. Now, I told you I was going to give you one that was a little bit more thought-provoking.
Yeah, right, this one.
Yes, write it down. Not only do I have arithmetic means between two certain numbers, but I also have, I don't know what came before or what came after. So how would we approach this? Now what's true about arithmetic sequence, since I'm talking arithmetic means here? You have to add to get exactly the same thing, and don't I consistently add the same number? So I'm gonna, what I add to get from here to here is the same as what I get to here, right? So couldn't I bracket off part of the sequence and just use part of it to find what I need to know? So then my first term would be 12 within this bracketed off sequence. What would my n be?
41.
5?
No? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What would be my last term for this sequence? 41. So I can use my formula again, right? So 41 equals the first term plus the number of terms minus 1 times, I don't know the difference. But once I find that difference, I can fill in the blanks with those means. So what would I do to solve first?
Subtract 5 from 1 from 4. D.
4D.
Subtract 12 from 41.
What, 6 3/4? No, 7 1/4. I was thinking 24. 7 1/4, you guys agree? So now, what would I do to find out what's in the blanks?
You add
Obviously, I know how I can get this one pretty quick, right? Add 7 1/4, so I'm gonna get,
19 and a fourth.
add 7 1/4 again, so it'd be what, 26 1/2?
Mm-hmm.
Add it again. 33 and 3/4, and if I add it again, what do you know that ends up in? So you have a check. Now, what would I do to get what came after it? Add it again, so that would be, what would I do to get what came before? Subtract it. So what's 12 take away 7 1/4?
4.
43/4.
And what's 4 3/4 take away 7 1/4?
-2
Okay, does everybody follow what we're doing on the exercises?
Yeah.
Does anybody need another example?
I have
Yes,
a question.
yes, sir.
Could you solve that using different methods also?
Probably.
Will you allow us to, or do you want us to do that?
What method would you be using?
I would have just found the difference between 12 and
41 and divided it?
by 4 to find the difference. And
Which that's really what we did, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing we did.
Does that work?
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's just written in a,
It's my steps.
yeah. Okay, so let me see your first few when you get them done. Tatum, you wanna turn the,
Oh, sorry.